Everyone thinks modern life is dangerous. At least, we don't have to worry about being gored by a deer during a royal hunt or dying from a botched medieval mercury enemas and bloodletting operation. The Middle Ages were full of danger, from disease and famine to bloodshed. While the Black Death deserves attention, it was not the only strange way people died. Let's laugh at the dumbest and worst things about medieval death. Here are the top 8 dumbest ways to die during medieval times. Number 1. Hunting hazards. Medieval hunting was more than a means of obtaining food. It was a complex cultural phenomenon deeply intertwined with social hierarchy, entertainment, and even politics. This period, spanning from the decline of the Roman Empire through the late 15th century, saw hunting evolve into a favorite pastime of high society, often regarded as a theatrical action of the upper class, rather than a necessity for survival. The hunt was not only a test of skill and bravery, but also a display of wealth and status, with elaborate preparations and celebrations marking the occasion. However, this esteemed practice was fraught with numerous dangers, from the unpredictable nature of wild animals to the tools and methods used in the hunt. Large game such as wild boars and bears were formidable opponents, capable of inflicting severe injuries or death. Weapons like arrows, spears, and crossbows could lead to accidental injuries among hunting party members. While the rough terrain of dense forests and rugged hills posed its own set of risks. The danger of medieval hunting were not exclusive to the common folk. Even kings and emperors were susceptible to fatal accidents. Noteworthy individuals who met their end while hunting include Emperor Basil I died after an accident involving his belt getting caught in the antlers of a deer. Emperor John II Komnenos was killed after accidentally pricking himself with poisoned arrows. Valdemar the Young, co-ruler of Denmark, accidentally shot on a hunt. These incidents underscore the inherent risks of medieval hunting, highlighting that no one, regardless of their status or power, was immune to the dangers of the hunt. Number 2. Battlefield blunders. Medieval warfare was cruel and chaotic, causing severe and fatal injuries. Sword and axe wounds were common in this period's battle, according to archaeology. An extensive investigation found 456 weapons-related head, neck, and shoulder traumas. The pattern of injuries implies that mounted assailants targeted footmen, targeting the most susceptible body areas that were often unarmored. The higher prevalence of back wounds than front wounds suggests many soldiers were struck while fleeing their attackers. The archaeological record shows medieval war injuries and insufficient medical treatment. One patient had 12 injuries involving 16 bone parts, which was excessive. Another touching example is the Siege of Sidon in 1260, when a soldier was found with his front skull cleft in two, his left arm amputated through the elbow, and several blade and arrow wounds. The severe head wounds would have killed due to brain damage and blood loss. Some remains show healed injuries, indicating that while some troops survived their wounds, medical care was primitive, focusing on life-saving rather than complete treatment. Medieval warfare was shaped by armor and weapons, which caused and prevented deaths. Armor protected against deadly fighting hits, ensuring survival. Each armament upgrade led to equivalent defense advances, which prompted armor development. Now, to the next on the list. Number 3. Poisonous potions and plants. People in Western Europe knew about diseases during the Middle Ages, from the 5th to the 14th century, and they believed that magical forces and demonic spirits could cause illness. As a result, people turned to a wide variety of treatments, including spells, potions, medical herbs, animal parts, and prayers to treat and cure various ailments. New ways of thinking about the world emerged when medieval Europe entered the Renaissance. However, the risk of poisoning was significant due to several factors: the variability in plant potency, the lack of standardized dosing, and the common practice of self-medication without professional guidance. Additionally, the distinction between beneficial and harmful plants could have been more apparent, leading to accidental poisonings when toxic plants were mistaken for their harmless counterparts, or when the preparation of an antidote went wrong. Number 4. Superstitious Sacrifices. Superstition played a significant role in shaping medieval medical practices, often leading to dangerous and even fatal outcomes. One alarming example was the use of dead vultures as a supposed cure for various ailments. The practice stemmed from the belief that vultures possessed mystical healing properties due to their ability to consume decaying flesh without falling ill. According to historical accounts, people would seek out the carcasses of vultures and grind their remains into a powder or concoction, which would then be consumed or applied topically as a treatment for conditions ranging from fevers to skin diseases. The rationale behind this practice was rooted in the superstitious belief that by ingesting or using the vulture's remains, the patient would somehow acquire the bird's perceived immunity to disease and decay. However, this practice could have been more effective and potentially lethal. Consuming the remains of vultures, which are scavengers and often feed on decaying and contaminated carcasses, could expose individuals to a host of harmful pathogens and toxins. Additionally, the preparation methods used at the time were often unsanitary, further increasing the risk of contracting life-threatening infections or poisoning. Religious beliefs played a significant role in shaping medieval medical practices, and their influence often had dire consequences. Many medical treatments and practices were deeply intertwined with religious rituals, superstitions, and beliefs about the supernatural. One example of this was the use of religious relics, such as the bones or belongings of saints, as supposed cures for various ailments. People would travel great distances and pay exorbitant sums to obtain these relics, believing that they possessed miraculous healing powers. However, the handling and distribution of these relics could have been more sanitary, leading to the spread of diseases and infections. Number 5. Surgical sorrows. Medical surgery was risky, thus advances in technique and knowledge were often ignored. Despite the development of surgical literature and medical institutes, the lack of anesthetic, sterilization, and anatomy and physiology made even routine surgeries lethal. In the 12th century, the medical school of Salerno in southern Italy was a pioneering surgical institution. Christian and Muslim scholars combined ancient Greek and Roman texts with Arabic medical expertise to establish medieval surgery. Despite the spread of these texts across Europe, surgery remained dangerous. Without proper anesthesia, patients suffered tremendous agony during procedures, often causing shock or death from trauma. Unawareness of germ theory and sterilization measures raised post-operative infection risk, usually fatal. Archaeology from medieval battles and grave sites shows that surgical treatments are deadly. They're likely to cause death from blood loss, infection, or shock. While some medieval surgical methods were sound, others were based on superstition or incorrect notions, and often caused more harm than benefit. A common practice was bloodletting, which aimed to balance the four humors and heal various diseases. Bloodletting entailed severing a vein or using leeches to draw blood from the patient, depending on the imbalance. Number 6. Accidental assassinations. Throughout history, there have been numerous instances where the deaths of prominent political figures or leaders occurred under suspicious circumstances, leading to speculation that they were the result of assassinations disguised as accidents. These incidents often involved individuals who posed a threat to the established order or held opposing ideological views, making them potential targets for elimination. One notable example is the death of King William II of England, also known as William Rufus, in 1100. While officially recorded as a hunting accident where an errant arrow struck him, the circumstances surrounding his death have long been shrouded in mystery and controversy. Some historians have suggested that the incident may have been a carefully orchestrated assassination. William had made powerful enemies among the Norman nobility and the church due to his autocratic rule and conflicts over land and power. Another case that has raised suspicions is the death of King Dagobert II of Austrasia in 679. While the official account states that he was killed in a hunting accident, Some historians believe that he may have been assassinated by the mayor of the palace, Pepin of Herstal, who stood to gain significant political power from Dagobert's demise. In more recent times, the death of Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat in 2004 has been the subject of intense speculation and investigation. While the official cause of death was listed as a stroke resulting from a blood disorder, allegations of poisoning by Israeli agents or Palestinian rivals have persisted, fueled by inconsistencies in the medical reports and the refusal of Palestinian authorities to allow an autopsy. The deaths of prominent figures under suspicious circumstances, whether genuinely accidental or the result of covert assassinations, can have far-reaching political and social implications. These incidents can destabilize power structures, ignite conflicts, and shape the course of history in profound ways. Number 7. Dangerous domestic life. The medieval home was a place fraught with numerous dangers, many of which stemmed from the lack of modern safety standards and construction practices. Even the most mundane tasks and everyday activities carried significant risks that could lead to injury or death. One of the most prevalent hazards was the ever-present threat of fire. Medieval homes were often constructed with highly flammable materials, such as thatch roofs and wooden beams, and lacked proper fire prevention measures. Cooking fires, candles, and poorly maintained fireplaces were familiar sources of ignition, and once a fire started, it could quickly spread and engulf an entire dwelling or even a neighborhood. Poor construction methods and substandard building materials also contributed to the risks of domestic life. Poorly built structures were susceptible to collapse, particularly during extreme weather conditions or natural disasters. Weak foundations, inadequate support beams, and the use of inferior materials could lead to catastrophic failures, trapping or crushing occupants beneath the rubble. Accidents within the home were also a significant concern. Slippery floors, uneven surfaces, and cluttered living spaces increase the likelihood of falls, which could result in serious injuries or even death, especially for the elderly or infirm. Sharp tools and implements used for cooking, cleaning, or other household tasks pose a constant threat of cuts, punctures, or other lacerations. The absence of modern safety standards and regulations played a crucial role in the high number of unexpected deaths that occurred in medieval homes. Without building codes, fire safety regulations, or product safety guidelines, the risks associated with domestic life were amplified. Lack of fire safety measures such as smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, and clearly marked escape routes meant that fires could quickly become uncontrollable and deadly. The absence of fire-resistant construction materials and techniques further exacerbated the risk of catastrophic fires. Number 8. Occupational hazards. The medieval period saw the rise of various professions and occupations, each with its own set of inherent dangers and risks. Mining, construction, and metalworking were among the most hazardous occupations of the time, exposing workers to a range of potential injuries and health hazards. Mining in particular was a challenging endeavor. Miners faced the constant threat of cave-ins, gas poisoning, and exposure to toxic substances like mercury and lead. The lack of proper ventilation systems and safety equipment exacerbated these risks, leading to numerous cases of respiratory illnesses, poisoning, and fatal accidents. Construction workers, on the other hand, grappled with the dangers of working at great heights, handling heavy materials, and operating primitive tools and machinery. Falls from scaffolding or incomplete structures were a common cause of injury and death. At the same time, the use of rudimentary lifting devices and tools increased the risk of crushing or impalement accidents. Metalworking, which involved the smelting, forging, and shaping of metals, exposed workers to extreme heat, toxic fumes, and the potential for severe burns or injuries from molten metal. The lack of protective equipment and safety protocols made this profession particularly hazardous, with workers often suffering from respiratory issues, eye injuries, and disfiguring burns. The primitive nature of tools and equipment used in various professions during the medieval period contributed significantly to the high rates of injuries and fatalities. Without modern safety features or ergonomic designs, these tools pose numerous risks to workers. In mining, the use of pickaxes, hammers, and chisels increased the likelihood of hand and arm injuries and the risk of being struck by falling debris or tools. The lack of proper lighting in mines also made it difficult to navigate and identify potential hazards. construction workers relied on essential tools like hammers, saw, and chisels, which could easily cause lacerations, amputations, or other severe injuries if not handled with extreme care. The absence of safety mechanisms or guards on these tools further compounded the risks. Here's the end of another edition of Medievals. Let's have your thoughts about this hazardous period in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the breathtaking history script.